Hello and welcome to Weekly News Highlights. I'm Kim Dami in Seoul. Let's begin with keywords that made headlines this week. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump spent the first week post-election shaping his new cabinet and appointing officials that will ultimately help him press ahead with his agenda. Bitcoin soared to a record highs this week, with crypto investors betting on Trump's ambitions to make America the crypto capital of the planet. Over 522,000 students, including high school seniors and graduates, took South Korea's annual college entrance exam. There was a notable number of graduates, which came after the government's plan to increase the medical school quota next year. Top diplomats of South Korea and the U.S. this week once again recognized that the illegal military collaboration between Russia and North Korea poses a serious threat to both Europe and the Indo-Pacific region's security. On the sidelines of the APEC meeting in Peru, South Korea's Foreign Minister Cho Tae-yeol and U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken held talks on Thursday, where they agreed to closely monitor Russia's provision of military assistance to North Korea in exchange for troops. Saying that bipartisan support for the Seoul-Washington alliance remains strong, Blinken added major accomplishments between the two countries will likely be smoothly handed over to the new administration. Now, about the presence of North Korean troops alongside their Russian counterparts, experts here in the country are now pondering the motives and implications of the deployment for the regime. Our Kim Jong-sil tells us more.
The Russian military has assembled a force of 50,000 soldiers, including North Korean troops, as it prepares to launch an assault on Ukrainian positions in the contested Kursk region, according to the New York Times on Sunday, citing U.S. and Ukrainian officials. CNN reported that the attack on Kursk could occur within the next few days. In a fight between Russia and Ukraine, what's at stake for North Korean soldiers?
They are likely willing to take the risk of potentially sacrificing their lives because, by being deployed abroad, they see it as a chance to solve issues like food shortages or to receive at least minimal welfare benefits.
Professor Im pointed out that this paradoxically proves how harsh the conditions are in the North Korean military.
The soldiers who have been deployed are likely the best trained and most ideologically committed. This is why they probably believe that by showing loyalty to leader Kim Jong-un, they will be rewarded with proper economic compensation.
Experts also suggested that soldiers' families may be unaware their sons were sent to Russia, as the deployment was likely mandated by the party rather than voluntary.
Kim Jong-un has always presented himself as a leader who cares for his people. Sending soldiers to war without national or parental consent is likely to upset many. This could weaken the stability of his regime in the long run.
Dr. Yang added that Kim may create a narrative such as framing the deployment as a fight against the U.S. or a move to strengthen ties with Russia to maintain control if troop numbers and casualties rise, as it will be increasingly difficult to conceal. Kim Jong-sil, 아리랑뉴스.
And North Korean leader Kim Jong-un this week finalized a defense pact with Russia, a step that will further legitimize heightened Russia-North Korea military collaboration. And the treaty will take effect once North Korea and Russia exchange ratification documents. Our Kim Bo-kyung has this report.
North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un has signed off on a landmark mutual defense pact with Russia, amid growing tensions over Pyongyang's troop deployment to fight against Ukraine. That's according to the North Korean Central News Agency on Tuesday, where it said the treaty of a comprehensive strategic partnership between Pyongyang and Moscow was ratified the previous day as a decree from the leader. This follows Russian President Vladimir Putin signing the pact on Saturday. The Comprehensive Strategic Partnership Treaty was signed between Kim and Putin in Pyongyang on June 19th this year, and is known to have revived the automatic military intervention clause from the treaty in 1961, as its Article Number 4 obliges both countries to provide immediate military assistance to each other using all means necessary if either faces aggression. An official from South Korea's Unification Ministry says exchanging ratification instruments can be done through embassies, or high-level officials may visit for an exchange ceremony. Once it takes effect, an expert says it will now enable North Korea to officially dispatch its troops.
For now, it was not an official troop deployment, but rather it was similar to sending mercenaries. But if the treaty takes effect after ratification, then North Korea could officially participate in the Russia-Ukraine war as a third party.
As Russian President Vladimir Putin has already spoken of, joint military exercises between Russia and North Korea could be possible as well. That being said, in terms of what it would now mean for the Korean peninsula, an expert said it means what's happening on the peninsula is going to be international.
It's very significant that Russia is now going to actively engage in the Korean Peninsula conflict. If any military clash were to occur on the peninsula, it would inevitably escalate into an international war.
김보경, 아리랑뉴스.
U.S. President-elect Donald Trump is moving quickly with plans to assemble the list of people who will serve in his cabinet. For more on who's been nominated and how will that affect foreign policy on the Korean Peninsula, we have our foreign affairs correspondent, Eunji, here in the studio. Welcome, Eunji.
Thanks for having me.
So, Eunji, who's joined the team so far, and how is Trump team different from his first term?
So the two keywords that represent Trump's picks to lead departments in the new administration are loyalists and hardliners as Trump prepares to push forward with his America First foreign policy. So first of all, he picked Susie Wiles to be the White House Chief of Staff, crediting her with helping him win both the 2024 and 2016 elections. Now, Wiles, who is said to be the first woman to step into this powerful role, has 4 decades of political experience. During Trump's first administration, he went through 4 chiefs of staff in a period of a record-setting personal term. He repeatedly said he believes the biggest mistake of his first term was hiring the wrong people. So we'll have to see if Wiles will be able to stay in power. For foreign policy chiefs, Trump is set to appoint those who take a hardline approach to foreign affairs. He has elected Mike Waltz as the White House National Security Advisor. Waltz is a Florida Republican and a Trump loyalist who is considered a foreign policy hawk towards Iran and China. As for the Secretary of State, he's expected to name Senator Marco Rubio, which will make him the first Latino to serve as America's top diplomat. Rubio has in past years advocated for a muscular foreign policy towards America's geopolitical foes, including China, Iran, and Cuba. To lead the CIA, Trump picked John Ratcliffe, another hardliner against China and Iran. Ratcliffe serves as the Director of National Intelligence, the nation's top spy, from 2020 to 2021 during the final months of Trump's first term. And for his Secretary of Defense, Trump picked Pete Hegseth, a Fox News host and Army veteran, in a surprise move. And this raised concerns that he has tapped someone largely inexperienced to take over the world's most powerful military.
I see that many of these senior staff to lead the Trump administration's diplomatic policy are known to have taken hard positions towards countries like China. Then how are these people expected to, deal with North Korea situations and also relations with South Korea?
Right, during his campaign, Trump said getting along with dictators like Kim Jong-un is a good thing. But even after holding 3 summits during his first term, Trump failed to persuade Kim to give up his nuclear weapons. Analysts say that Trump is not expected to put huge pressure on North Korea. Take a listen.
The new Trump administration will keep its current level of denuclearization and deterrence efforts, but I don't think it will try to engage in nuclear negotiations with North Korea or change the North's policy by pressuring the regime.
And as I mentioned earlier, Trump will appoint Marco Rubio as the country's top diplomat. An expert who has followed Rubio's career closely says he'll take a firm position on North Korea while being pragmatic at the same time.
He is a staunch anti-communist. These feelings are driven not only by his political worldview, but also by his heritage as a Cuban American, fleeing communist oppression. His family fled from Castro's Cuba. But I think that when it comes to North Korea policy, he's going to be a pragmatist. He understands that North Korea possesses nuclear weapons. He understands that any move to confront North Korea has to be done only in consultation with our allies.
As for relations with South Korea, the Korean government has been repeatedly saying that the alliance between Seoul and Washington will continue to remain strong. This is what South Korea's foreign minister had to say this week as he addressed public concerns on the return of Trump and his unpredictable approach to diplomacy.
I understand that many people are concerned about the launch of the new U.S. administration next year, that international affairs may become more unstable, and that trade protectionism will intensify with the America First policy. There will likely be a lot of changes, but one thing is clear. The South Korea-U.S. alliance will remain strong and be further reinforced under the second Trump administration.
What about the war in Gaza? I mean, who's been appointed in key roles to handle the situation over in the Middle East?
Trump has said he wants to end wars in Gaza and Lebanon. He recently picked the former Arkansas governor Mike Huckabee to the U.S. ambassador to Israel. Huckabee is a strong defender of Israel who has even said there is no such thing as a Palestinian and that Israel has a rightful claim to the West Bank. And this week, Trump said he would appoint businessman and his longtime friend Steve Witkoff, who has also previously made pro-Israel statements, to be his special envoy to the Middle East. Now, both of these men who will help shape Trump's policy towards the Middle East are facing criticism, as they do not have much formal diplomatic or foreign policy experience in the region. But there is no question as to where their sympathies lie.
All right, Inji, thanks so much for that comprehensive report today. As always, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Despite concerns surrounding former President Donald Trump's track record of pressuring U.S. allies, a veteran diplomat says there are still key opportunities for South Korea and the U.S. to collaborate effectively on global issues. Our Oh Soo-young has the details.
With the return of former US President Donald Trump to the Oval Office next year, Seoul and Washington have the chance to reinforce their alliance based on America's global leadership and South Korea's strengths and capabilities. That's according to veteran diplomat and Professor An Oh-young, former ambassador to the United States. Amid concerns Trump will revive his transactional and confrontational approach to alliances, and says Seoul and Washington have more reasons to work together to face an increasingly complex regional and global security environment.
And in that case, I think there is a lot we could be working together between Korea and United States. For example, we have to remember that when it comes to conventional weapons, we are fifth largest power in the world. President-elect Trump talked about defense industry capabilities of Korea. So he talked about, say, naval vessels, U.S. naval vessels, which need something called MRO service from Korea. That is to say, maintenance, repair service from Korea. That, in fact, is something we've been talking about for a long, long time. But at the same time, I was very positively impressed that President Trump, in fact, understands about it, why we need cooperation in that area as well.
Also, as countries brace for fresh tariffs and trade wars under a second Trump administration, An said the US would benefit more from economic cooperation with South Korea, as Trump tries to ramp up business growth and household income for Americans. He noted that South Korea was the largest foreign investor in the United States last year.
So we have to fight inflation, and we have to fight slow economic growth. And again, I think Korea has a lot to offer. Why? Because we have world-class manufacturing capability, and we have world-class research capacity. And we, in fact, can work very closely with the United States for that, in order to fight inflation, in order to promote economic growth. I think the last thing we need for that would be high tariffs. High tariffs would be adding to inflation. High tariffs would be discouraging economic growth. So I very much hope that that issue could be worked out between Korea and United States.
Turning to security matters, An raised the need for Seoul and Washington to coordinate their approach to North Korea as the regime's threat to global security increases. having served as ambassador to Washington during the early months of Trump's first term. An said the US leader's two-pronged strategy during his first term, maximum pressure and maximum diplomacy, can complement Seoul's current approach to the North.
Today, that in fact is something we need. Maximum pressure and maximum diplomacy, but at the same time, there should be a third element, which is deterrence. Deterrence is definitely more important than at the time. Why? Because North Korea has more nuclear weapons. North Korea has more missiles. And North Korea is now, colluding between North Korea and Russia.
Amid growing polarization in international relations and the rise of authoritarianism, An said Seoul and Washington should turn these challenges into opportunities.
Then I think there are many avenues of efforts we should be making, like bilateral relationship, trilateral relationship, multilateral relationship. And one thing we must not forget is something called Global South. Global South. The countries in the Global South. And they, in fact, are watching. They, in fact, are watching what United States stands for and what countries like Russia and China stands for. And I think it will be very important for us, who in fact believe in rule-based international order, to let people in the Global South understand we are not just for ourselves.
During their first phone conversation last week, President Yoon Suk-yeol agreed to meet soon with the incoming US leader to discuss bilateral issues in more detail. Observers hope the meeting will take place within the coming weeks before Trump takes the oath of office again on January 20th. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Bitcoin soared to a record highs this week as investors grew more confident that Trump will offer a more favorable regulation for cryptocurrencies. But still, there are differing views on whether it will continue to climb. Our Benj explains what Trump's second term could mean for the cryptocurrency markets.
Bitcoin is on track to hit the $100,000 milestone amid investor enthusiasm after Donald Trump's presidential election victory. Some analysts even say that Bitcoin could even hit this milestone before the end of this year. Bitcoin remained below the $70,000 before the U.S. presidential election in November, but rose 30% after Trump's victory, and is now near the $90,000 mark. Trump has vowed to ease the regulatory burden on crypto and create a reserve to hold the United States Bitcoin supply. During his campaign, Trump earlier promised that if he returned to the White House, he would remove the chair of the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, Gary Gensler, who has taken an aggressive approach to crypto regulation. The surge in crypto prices also comes as Trump has kept his promise to offer Elon Musk, Tesla CEO and a crypto advocate, a role in the next administration. Musk has been appointed to lead a new Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, which also references the name of the cryptocurrency Dogecoin that Musk promotes.
Well, as Elon famously said, he loves to pump, but he doesn't dump. He's a big fan of Dogecoin, which is a meme coin, which aligns with his philosophy that the most entertaining outcome, I guess, is the most likely outcome. And so it's not surprising, given Elon's connection to Trump, to see, Dogecoin doing well. And, what happens from here? Who knows? I mean, Tesla owns a significant amount of Bitcoin. They were one of the first major companies to acquire a large corporate stake.
But some experts explain that Bitcoin is in beast mode and warn investors of risk investing in cryptocurrencies that are riding high.
Although we do expect that there will be a role of crypto in the future of finance, it's unclear exactly what the global regulations will ultimately look like. So investors are still wise to be cautious and only invest in crypto at the fringes of their portfolios with money that they can be prepared to lose.
배은지, 아리랑뉴스.
The Korean economy may see rather sluggish growth this year and next year, with uncertainty over exports as the incoming U.S. administration under Donald Trump eyes tougher tariffs on all imports. Our Choi Soo-hyung tells us more.
The Korea Development Institute has predicted that South Korea's economic growth will slow to 2% in 2025, down from an earlier forecast of 2.1%. Data from the KDI on Tuesday show that although domestic spending is expected to see some recovery, weaker export growth will lead to the lower overall growth compared to this year. The institute also lowered its growth estimate for this year from 2.5% to 2.2%. The IMF and OECD still project South Korea's growth rate for this year at 2.5%. The institute explained the slow domestic recovery and increased uncertainty around exports to the U.S. due to the second Trump administration term are key reasons for the adjustment.
Domestic recovery is slower than we expected. Additionally, interest rate cuts were delayed, and the negative impacts of these cuts were greater than anticipated. The forecast for next year was further lowered to reflect concerns that export growth may worsen due to the Trump election.
KDI also expects the increase in job numbers to fall from 180,000 this year to 140,000 next year. Consumer price growth is forecast at 1.6% in 2025, below the targeted 2%. While domestic demand may improve slightly, the KDI noted that construction investment remains weak, which could persist and present a risk. The institute predicted that South Korea's growth rate for exports will drop from 7% this year to 2.1% next year, anticipating a rise in U.S. protectionism. It believes that tariff barriers won't go into effect immediately and that, if tariffs are raised, this will likely start in 2026. Experts forecast South Korea's economic growth rate may not stay positive during the second Trump administration.
The second version of Trump administration stresses trade protectionism. The second Trump administration will focus not just China, but all the countries which have tremendous surplus against the United States, like Mexico, Canada, Korea, Japan, including China.
Dr. Shin said that exports are already showing a negative trend this year and the growth rate may be lower than 2.0% next year. Cho Seong, Arirang
The faces we see here are a mix of relief, concern, and excitement from high school seniors and graduates who took the annual National College Entrance Exam here in South Korea. Now, it's better known as Suneung. This year's Suneung took place on Thursday with relatively warm weather, considering it's been typically cold around the time of Suneung in the past.
I think it was a bit easy overall. It's out of my hands now. I'm just going to play basketball all day.
I'm happy that the exam is over. I just want to have fun with my friends now.
Now, this year, more than 520,000 students took the test, with the highest number of people retaking the test in the past 21 years. It's the first Suneung since the expansion of the medical school admissions quota, and more students are expected to apply to medical school, which may have led to the increase in test takers this year. With these extra students, competition was expected to be more intense, with more difficult questions to separate them. However, the head of the examination committee said otherwise.
Based on data starting from last year, we tried to adjust the difficulty of the test, especially for test retakers. We also completely excluded killer questions, or the more difficult questions, and tried to distinguish test takers through materials from public education.
Now, some may face an anxious wait until December 6th when the test results will be out, but the test takers are free for now and can finally relax and enjoy themselves. With the growing popularity of Korean culture, the Seoul Tourism Organization has been coming up with a variety of one-day classes so that foreigners can enjoy K-culture for free in one area. And the place even has special hands-on experience once a month that's been grabbing attention. Our Park Kwon-woo went out to find out more.
Experiencing Korean culture to the fullest for free. This is possible thanks to one-day classes taking place regularly at Seoul Cultural Lounge in Central Seoul that's been open since June this year. Here, foreigners living in or just visiting South Korea have a chance to savor their favorite type of Korean culture, from K-pop and K-beauty to traditional culture. Once a month, Seoul Cultural Lounge holds a special class, and for November, it's Taekwondo, Korea's national sport. On this day, around 20 foreigners, registered on a first-come, first-served basis, had the opportunity to learn techniques and even how to spar. I received the same uniform that's given to the participants for free as part of the one-day class. What usually takes about several weeks to master, this class allows you to be quite proficient in Taekwondo techniques that you've learned in just 1 hour. Check this out. Yup! Ha! Ha! Foreigners were able to learn more quickly thanks to the class being taught in English with the help of an interpreter.
So you get the chance to, try the sport yourself, and then it was nice to learn from an actual master, of course. Yeah, so it was fun.
It was a really good experience. I loved it. It's completely different than just visiting the country. Like we can do a total new experience, but I never did before. So.
Alongside the special classes, regular classes are also other options. Those classes include learning the latest Korean slang while watching K-dramas and movies, and coloring frames with traditional palace designs.
Like other programs where you can do art or creative things, and sometimes you have to pay a lot of money. So to get to do really cool art for free is something that I really like.
Over 8,000 foreigners from 78 countries visited this place already. They look very happy and say they will brag to their friends about their experiences after returning to their homes.
With several popular classes already underway, the Seoul Tourism Organization plans to keep opening more intriguing classes down the road. 박건우, 아리랑뉴스.
That's all we have for this weekend. Enjoy your weekend wherever you are, and thanks for watching.